When I first met Sal, I was 23 years old in Chicago. And he has remained a part of my life for the next 45 years. If you didn't know him back in those days, he was a force of energy and power. He was articulate, full of analysis of the system and the struggle, and he infused everything with that energy in those days. But what stood out to me the most about him at that time is that he looked and dressed like one of my uncles. So I felt immediately familiar and comfortable with him, and thought of him as the same as the people that I grew up with, leaving their homes every day to go to work. Later that year, this was in 1977, I was invited to the African People's Party 3rd National Party Congress in Philadelphia. I had never been to Philadelphia. It was my first time, and I was so excited about the Congress. I had finally made connections with the forces and leaders of the Black Liberation Movement through Saladin. I went to the famous house on Jerome Street in Philly, and there I met Naima. Oheniwa and Muhammad were preteens, and Nefertiti, I think, was a toddler at that time. But once at the house on Jerome Street, I experienced another revelation. When I would listen to Naima in another room talking to her children, I could hear the voice of my own mother. So it was a kind of recognition in that moment, and I felt like I knew I was in the right place with the right people. That's how I felt. Another thing I noticed was that there was very little furniture in the house on Jerome Street. So I thought to myself, boy, these revolutionaries don't have furniture. So I started, I went back to Chicago, and I was trying to live without furniture too. So my mother came over, and she said, girl, what is wrong with you? So I said, well, I'm embarrassed that my mother would ask me that question, so I'm gonna get some furniture. But in the house on Jerome Street, I met Shafia, I met Askia, I met Shanga and his family, I met Muhammad Adil, Jomo, Akbar, Muhammad Ahmad, and so many others. These are wonderful key people in our struggle for liberation. That Third Party Congress was an important and historic event, and it's important for us to write and talk about it at some point. But it was a gathering of the key revolutionary nationalist forces from around the country. Queen Mother Moore, Muntu Matsamela, Mutulu Shakur, Ahmed Obafemi, Akinyele Umoja, I think Chokwe Lumumba was there, and other members of the Republic of New Africa. But one of the key decisions, and there were a number of consequential decisions at that Congress, but one of the important ones was to move to what we call the national territory, the South. And many of us did that over the next few years. My grandmother used to call it down home, move down home. So Sal and Naima moved back down home to Rocky Mount. And I came down for the first time to Rocky Mount in 1982. And when I got here, I met Brother Alec, who was one of the leaders of the Rocky Mount City Workers. And I think he was even chairman of Black Workers for Justice at that time. But the main thing was that Sal and others were developing the work here. Baba Sufu, Sal brought Baba Sufu, Abner Berry down, and it was a joy to see the two of them together. Then I met Ajamu and Rukia and Ngaza. Ngaza later brought Nathan Nett, and we were quite a crew. I had at first moved to Birmingham, Alabama for a quick minute, and then to Jackson, Mississippi. But Sal then invited me to come to Rocky Mount, and I moved down to help with the work in 1985. One thing about working with Sal was that the work was always concrete and well thought out. Here we could go directly to the people. So it's been 45 years, and we were dedicated to the liberation of our people and to organizing the Black working class under Sal's leadership. Sometimes it was really hard. There were a lot of ups and downs, and we didn't always agree, but we loved each other and have stayed the course. I love Sal. He was our leader, a wonderful human being, a powerful political leader and organizer. Sal, rest in power, and the work will continue. We will go on fighting until we join you among the ancestors for the generations to come.